Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of closed session back to executive session.
I so move.
All right, have a motion. To have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion? I'll start the vote. Mr. Early?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. I'd ask that each of you certify if you agree with the statement, whereas the Carroll County Board of Supervisors conveyed a closed session this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote, and on the motion to close the meeting in accordance with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, whereas Section 2.2-3711, and we went in under A1 and A8 of the Code of Virginia, requires a certification by the Board of Supervisors that such closed session was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Carroll County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session to which this certification applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion by this which is closed session was conveyed, were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting to which this certification applies. Mr. Early?
I so certify.
Mr. Collins?
I so certify.
Mr. Hill?
I so certify.
Mr. McCraw?
I so certify.
Mr. Dixon?
I so certify.
And I so certify. At
Mr.
this
Chairman,
time-
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm sorry, if I could, I'd just like to clarify for the record that the closed session motion was under A1, personnel discussing performance and compensation of specific public employees, and under A8, consultation with legal counsel concerning potential enforcement action by the county and a First Amendment question posed to the county.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Before we move to the invocation and pledge, I would like to entertain a motion to make an adjustment to the agenda to move the business recognition. We've got a couple businesses got prior engagements that need to go to right after the invocation and pledge.
I so move.
All right. Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'll start the vote. Mr. Early?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. This time I'd ask Mr. Collins if he'd lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Let's pray together. Father, thank you for this opportunity to be in this place to discuss the business of the county. Lord, we pray that you would give us guidance and leadership and direction and the good sense to follow it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, I'll open the floor up to Mr. Dixon for his presentation for business.
Okay. Justin, Shannon, about to come up. Amy come too? No? Okay. I'm just going to do both of y'all then. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to present you with a certificate of recognition from Midway Food Mart, Midway Fast Food. Appreciate your business in Carroll County and everything you do. And they're right there on 58 beside DMV. So you want to say anything?
I'd just like to say that we feel blessed. We have operated business in this community for 33 years. I want to thank everybody that supports us over those years. Look forward to doing business in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
All right. Mr. Early?
Before I invite Mr. Hagan Giles up here, I'd like to read a little bit about the organization that I am recognizing today. It's Old Mill Golf Course in Laurel Fork. Old Mill Golf Course just completed its 50th year, attracting golfers and visitors from the local area all over the eastern seaboard of North America and across the world. Opening in the fall of 1972, Old Mill Golf Course, designed by famed golf course architect Ellis Maples, quickly became known as a premier golf destination for traveling golfers from Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, North Carolina, and other states. The golf course, being centered around a 54-acre lake and situated in the beautiful rolling hills of Carroll County, became known for challenging golf and beautiful mountain views. The mix of quality golf and scenic beauty at Old Mill is unrivaled in the golf industry. In 1990, Old Mill Golf Resort opened with the addition of houses and condominiums for traveling golfers to multiple days and nights. Maple's Restaurant was also added in 1995, which serves local diners and travelers as well. With Carroll County as its backdrop, Old Mill has many golf package groups who have visited for 20 to 25 years running. Old Mill was purchased in 2007 by MG Golf Facilities LLC partnership and is still owned by this partnership today. One of the partners, Norris E. Mitchell, Sylvatus Mitchell's Crossroad native, is one of the members of that LLC and proud to do business in Carroll County, so close to his roots. The incredible design and natural beauty of Old Mill Golf Resort and surrounding Carroll County attracts people from as far north as Ontario and Quebec, Canada, to the southern tip of Florida. Old Mill is also a destination for golf travelers worldwide, with people visiting from various countries each year. Carroll County is a wonderful backdrop for Old Mill's customers to shop in our stores, eat in our restaurants, and take time to enjoy the beautiful scenery here in Carroll County and the counties that surround it. It is a beautiful golf course. Unfortunately, I'm not very good playing there. It's got way more water than I would ever want to have to play. Hagan, if you would come up. Hagan Giles is the general manager of Old Mill Golf Course. Has been there for as long as I can remember. How long has that been? 42nd year. I will read this certificate of recognition. Old Mill Golf Course. This is proudly presented to Old Mill Golf Course for your dedication and service to the citizens of Carroll County. From the Board of Supervisors, thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you to the supervisors. Thank everybody in this county and all the businesses. We couldn't do it without you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Collins?
I'm going to ask Todd and Dolores Hill to come on up. Todd, is there anybody else here with your family? You two? Well, you two will do well. Most of you who've been in Carroll County probably know what Todd and Dolores represent. It's Hill's Shoe Store in Cana, Virginia. It used to be Hill's General Store. I read somewhere recently where they used to could buy things there with chickens and eggs or something in trade. 95 years in business in Carroll County. Just recently celebrated that. Y'all look good to be in business 95 years. Says, in recognition, proudly presented to Hill Shoes for your dedication service to the citizens of Carroll County. And I would love for y'all to say just a little bit about the business and how I can remember when you could go in there and shop like it was a grocery store at one time. I mean, I remember the buggies and going through the aisles, and you know, then bigger grocery stores came along and things changed. But it's amazing, 95 years, and it's been not only your service to the citizens and the businesses that you've represented, but also your service to the county. You've served on things for the county. You've supported youth sports, things of that nature. We just appreciate everything you all have done in your family and your mom and dad, and it goes all the way back to who started it?
My grandpa.
Your grandpa, yeah. So thank you for all that you've done, and take just a minute and say a few words.
In 1927, my grandpa sold his first pair of shoes, July the 8th, for walking through those. It was a really nice pair of boots. Those shoes at that point in time were $6,000. We're out of those now. But started being the egg beef done before the chicken. I looked up today because I've got his records from that first year, and you'll see where they're bringing the chicken. Assuming that's what happened first. But it started out as a Bill company with father Atkins, and then with store, or Gill's General Store, Gill's Grocery, and still same family. I think we had 14 kids raised in business. I was involved in work. Started going to the
But you went half and half.
shoes and.
Oh, yeah, we had
And
shoes in
groceries.
1927,
Yeah.
because it was a, local Walmart, and, I really gotta thank the people around me for this for 95 years. Supervisors make good, it was good doing, thankful for our customers, because we've been supported, great progression, awards, food, service, hadn't been for customers.
And if you haven't been, you need to go get anything from running shoes, to cowboy boots, to high heel shoes.
Mr. Collins, I do have one question.
Yes.
Is that why the 27's on like the PT Cruiser now?
It is.
I know now.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Got it.
awesome. Learned something today. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Hill?
With Brian and Shane Mall, come forward, right here. Let's not be here.
Okay.
I want to give a certificate of recognition for the Miller's Market, for the dedication and service to the citizens of Carroll County. If you ever eat at Miller's, you will go back and eat. They got great baked foods and great lunches, and I would suggest everybody go by there. It's a great place to eat.
And we'll give a big round of applause to all the businesses in the county, not just the ones that were recognized tonight, okay? All right, next on the agenda is school projects update. Mr. Burnett?
Good morning, gentlemen, or good afternoon, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, it's hard to tell anymore.
Yeah,
You stay in the same building all day.
that's
Yeah,
true.
you stay in the same building, it kind of runs together, get out.
Hmm.
But I'm like Mr. Early, I've lost a few golf balls at Old Mill myself. Don't care to mention that, but just want to give you guys an update. Mike had asked us to come and update you on a few projects we've got going on. Our big project, I'm going to ask Yancey Powers, Yancey, here, our architect, to come in. We did get the project approved, and we did back off on the scale of the project a little bit, but we've got it under contract, and the company, New Atlantic, is our contractor. They worked with us on the first renovations to the high school, and they mobilized on January 9th. We just met with them today, face to face, and look forward to working with those guys. I'm going to turn this over to Yancey for just a minute so he can describe some of the changes and all we've made to the project.
Nice seeing y'all again. So if you look at the floor plan, you're going to see that there's not a lot of difference in the bulk of the building compared to what we talked about last time. On the bid package that just went out, we needed to focus on how we could spend those funds that they had received. And the first thing is we had to make sure that we got the classrooms and the learning spaces in. So you'll notice that centralized block stayed the same. And then we also note on there as an alternate corridor, that alternate has been accepted. So we will be connecting back to the existing school on the high school side with an enclosed corridor that will allow the students to walk between those new classrooms and the school without going back outside. One of the things that we did lose throughout the entire project was we did have to lose the corridor that went from the new gym and classrooms to the driver's ed. Now, that's not saying it can't be added at any point in time, but it's just not able to be funded in this project with the funds that they had been allotted for. The classrooms, the number of classrooms, the lobby, the gym, all that stayed the exact same size as the original proposal. We were able to save funds by making some changes on exterior materials and finishes. For example, not taking brick all the way up and switching to a metal panel in a distance where the kids couldn't get to anymore. And then losing some of the architectural features, the sloped roofs and things along those, going with a more flat roof consistent with what they had in the existing school. But we still are going to end up with a building that is brick all across the front half of it. The top of the gym will be metal panel, but we're going to have a consistent line. We don't have metal panel down where kids can get to. And I think it'll be a nice looking project. So this is what we've ended up with here. You can see where the brick goes up to right to the base of the windows, and above that, which is 14 plus feet, is where we'll switch back into a metal panel, as opposed to a brick going all the way up on the front of the school. And this is the front entrance view again here. Really, the change is that we had one classroom that had a sloped ceiling to match the gym, and we've dropped that back down because we realized there was additional cost and it served no purpose for that. And then the interior of the gym, it'll still look essentially the same from what we showed y'all on the last go round. So is there any questions about what we've done or how we've managed to come back in, or thoughts?
I have a question.
Sure.
The current gym, will it still be used for basketball games
Absolutely.
with other schools? This is just an auxiliary gym, is that right? And one other question, Dr. Burnett, maybe you can answer it. Where are the seniors going to park?
The seniors will move to the junior lot, and the juniors will go down closer to the football field and on the parking lot there at the football field.
So
That's a pretty long way to walk,
Full hall, yeah.
and we're worried about connecting the other building to this whole thing when they've got to walk several hundred yards to get to school.
well, the site is so restricted on parking right now as it is. So we've really got some limitations that we have to deal with. Directly behind the parking lot, there's a pretty substantial hill that we wouldn't be able to eat into that hill. We've got the road, binding us on the other side. So really, unless if we were to take taken the school and put it someplace else, there really wasn't footprint within the site in order to expand any place that wouldn't eat in this parking. So yes, we have moved the parking farther down, but if you'll think back on the existing building, there is one set of stairs that's right close to the existing exit on the top side of the plan, and then there's another set that's down closer to the football field, the driver's ed building. Keep in mind that that set of stairs is going to be very close to our end exit door. So as soon as they come down that stairs, they'll be able to get into the building. They're not having to walk all the way across the parking lot in order to get back in and go to the building. So yes, we are farther along, but we also are providing an entrance that's covered and protected farther down the road.
And last question, you had sufficient money to do the corridor that you added?
So we set that as an allowance. We took the square footage and used the existing plan, and they have an allowance for that. We're in the process of getting everybody together to make sure that works. We believe we have a good solution based off the square foot cost we have. As soon as we know that, we'll be able to come back. We took the square foot cost of the entire building and applied that to the 1,300 square foot of the corridor. And as we come back, as they confirm that that's in savings, we'll come back to the pot. But we know we have a budget that we have to work with. That's our goal.
How confident are you can stay within that budget?
The contractors feel confident that we can stay in that budget.
And what happens if you don't?
Then we will look closely at ways we can do and things we can trim in order to say that our goal is not to have to come back.
Build in plenty of contingency.
We do have some contingency.
We've got some contingency. We also are purchasing all the goals and backboards and bleachers and all ourselves rather than going through a contractor to save some money there. We won't have to pay taxes and there won't be any markup on it.
Same with the mechanical
Yeah,
equipment.
same
too.
with HVAC systems.
So that also allowed us to go ahead and get those things purchased right away and get them in the lines so that we could get them so we don't have supply chain issues, hopefully, that we would have had if we would have waited on the contractor, got the contract signed, had them come in.
It's a huge lead time on some of the larger stuff. So you can imagine what that's like right now.
Estimated completion date?
390 days was the contract. We think that will be
Right.
a little sooner than that.
And that really starts kickoff with them on January 9th. So,
So sometime around April of '24, something like that?
It should be. Yep.
Okay.
Those guys are eager to get started. We're eager for them to get started.
How much grading will they be in there at the senior parking lot now to the
So the back
driver's ed?
corner of the back corner of the new gym, the upper right-hand corner on this plan, is pretty much at grade. We're about 2 feet. We dropped it about 2 feet from the existing school in order to limit that. But we're going to do concrete walls and concrete footings so that we can backfill with gravel, so we won't be bringing a ton of dirt in. Originally we had talked about cutting off the top of the senior lot in order to balance the site. And all the contractors we talked to said, that's great as long as we're not working in the winter. And so we're gonna go with a gravel. So we'll be doing some grade work and site work from the front of this to the existing retaining wall, where we're gonna have about 17, 18 spots of parking for handicap. But a bulk of this will be stone that we brought in, not cutting large amounts of dirt in.
When you talk about moving the junior lot down, are you talking about putting it on the upper side of the football field there?
Yep.
It's not very far,
No.
really, from where it's at now.
It's just, we had the parking spots, we had it sealed and the parking spots marked off, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really used for anything during the day
No.
at this point. I think
Just
great.
keep that little spot down below the football field where they can still do driver's ed.
Mhm.
Still got some driver's ed stuff to do. Feel good with their contractors. We got a good history with those guys. Probably save us a lot of money from other contractors because they're familiar with the site already.
Will those two lots be improved? Will they be paved?
At this time, our primary goal was to get this built first. Before you, this time, our primary goal is to get the building and the connecting corridor done. And that looks like it's gonna use all the funds that we have.
It's in our capital improvement plan later down the road.
Okay.
Right now, we just don't have it. Get it done. More questions, Mr. Powell? Let you know about the buses. Of course, you all knew we did get that electric school bus grant. We did get that, $7.9 million, and the cost of the buses and chargers and all equal out to $7.9 million. So, looking forward to that. We do plan on having an electric bus brought up for us to let you guys and the school board take a ride in it and let you see kind of how it works. We're putting 12 charging stations at the bus garage, and we're putting 4 at Gladeville and 4 at St. Paul. So those around the county. We were one of 12 school divisions that received that grant. And, I think Lynchburg City got 25 buses and we got 20.
How far will one of those buses go before it has to be charged for the rest of the day and night?
138 miles on the charge, isn't that right, Tammy? Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll let them run half the charge in the morning, bring them back to the units, plug them back up, charge them, send them back out the afternoon. That way they'd never have less than half a charge.
And that's at full load, right?
Yep.
In mountains?
Mountain actually is supposed to get better better charge going up and down the mountain because it has a regenerative braking system to where that they charge themselves as you brake. So
Have you done?
What about infrastructure for the chargers?
we have to have that put in. We've got a quote from one company, but I think we're going to bid that out. We'll have to have the 20 chargers. Of course, the chargers are paid for by the grant. AEP is going to put another transformer in for us, and we'd have to put the panels and all up from that. But there's I think a 9 to 12 month lead time.
Buses are 9 to 12 months. We've already ordered them, so we are in the process that we are going to start having tech parts allocation at the end of the service that we are priority.
They'll send those in 5 at a time. That way, we can get some folks trained and put them out and get them moving.
Life expectancy.
13 to 15 years. Kind of similar to a regular bus.
About like LED light bulbs that don't last more than a couple of years?
Yeah.
You realize these are not electric buses, don't you? They're coal-powered buses. And what about estimates on increased electrical expense? Electricity?
They'll run us, what did they tell us, Tammy? 13?
Yeah, we've met with AEP, to make sure that we can get the absolute best rate. We have the public authority rate right now. They also had a conversation with us about taking that on to a time rate, so that we can keep charging in the evening.
average cost was about $15 a day, wasn't it, or 15 for the buses, as opposed to, what we pay for fuel a day for bus, so significant savings for us there.
And what does it cost per individual charging station? Did you,
20,000
20,000?
per station, yeah. They, it's funny, the grant was for $400,000 and the charging stations were $400,000. Buses were $375,000 apiece, and our cost of those was $3,749,015 or something, so it just all worked out that it was a wash.
Any special requirements for the charging stations, like three-phase power or anything like that?
Yeah, there's 240 in.
Yeah,
They come
so
240.
we're in good shape with the two schools. They're going to have to put, they're going to have to do some work down the road to the there.
I put a transformer in down there and AEPs already, so they would take care of that, and then the panel, I put the panels up there. I think there's anything else that they'll put the standards around the charger so you protect them from anybody back into them by accident.
What about like a warranty, where we have to have people who work at the school bus garage that can work on them and
They provide training to
train for it?
mechanics to work on those. They'll come in, and I think they work with them for 3 weeks. So we got a good system of support there.
One other question, and it may not be applicable, but is there any thought to making these charging stations available to the public for charging their vehicles?
Yeah, that's a,
Well, that was brought up.
put a credit card thing on it.
Yeah. That's something we'd have to look at as far as, being able to control traffic in and out for people to utilize. But I don't know.
Maybe certain times of the day they could do that. But you won't see me there, but
No, I had a lot of questions about the electric vehicles till I've ridden in a couple of them, and they've got plenty to get up and go. But any questions?
Are there any more questions for Dr. Burnett? Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Burnett.
thank you.
All right, next, Vicki Myers. Oh, you can bring her with you. And I will say, I serve on the board with, Vicki's the director, and she's retiring, and I asked Vicki to come and give everybody an update on where she's leaving things and introduce who she's turning things over to, so.
Yes, I'd like to first thank you all for supporting Rooftop all these years, financially and through staff that, help us. But we are in good shape right now, and I am very excited that Terry Gillespie will be taking my place. She's worked for us for 20 years. She knows the business well, and it's just going to be a smooth transaction. But I do want to thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you,
and
Vicki.
Look forward to working with you, Terry. And if y'all leave, have a good Christmas.
Thank you. You too.
All right, next on the agenda, the Virginia Cooperative Extension update. Ms. Edwards.
Hello, thank you for letting me present today. My name is Chloe Sutherland, and I am the 4-H agent here in Carroll County. I was here a year ago at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and it was actually my second day. So I am super excited to be back. I cannot believe that a year has already passed, and I am excited to talk to you about just a few of the things that we have done this year. So this past summer, youth participated in our Workshop Wednesdays, where they had the chance to participate in hands-on activities and gain new skills. We had workshops on cake decorating, STEM, storytelling, and life skills. Our life skills workshop allowed for youth to learn how to change the oil in their car and learn some basic public speaking skills, learn about tool identification. So that was a lot of fun. Steve Podorf, our ag agent, helped me out with that one, and Ashley Edwards, our horticulture agent, actually helped me with the cake decorating workshop. We currently have just a few spots left in our winter workshops. If you know of anyone interested in joining those, this year we will be making gingerbread houses. We're writing cards to veterans and people residing in nursing homes. We're making candles, we're making soap, and those should be a lot of fun. We are also doing a workshop on December 29th to kind of get ready for the new year, allow for youth to make New Year's resolutions, learn about healthy living, and participate in some 4-H yoga. At the middle school this year, I did a real-life simulation where youth were able to learn about careers and money management, and they actually got to choose a career and had to budget their money as they worked their way through a month. It was very interesting to see if they were able to get everything that they wanted and needed as they went through that simulation. And we talked about how their guardians and grown-ups at home are spending a lot of money just on their basic needs month to month. So that was a really great experience for those youth, and they seemed to really enjoy that. I also started 4-H clubs at Gladeville and Gladesboro Elementary School in the hopes of starting clubs at every elementary school in the future. So far we have elected officers, learned about parliamentary procedure. We also did some public speaking and leadership skills, and today we had the students at Gladeville Elementary School start out with their first contest, the dramatic reading. So I really enjoyed that. And I am hoping to do more in-school programs in the future. These are just a few highlights. I've provided each of you with the Carroll Clover, a newsletter that I wrote, and I would love to talk to you more about these programs. The 4-H motto is to make the best better, and I truly hope to do that here in Carroll County. I really appreciate your all's support, and if you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them. I also did provide you with the highlight sheet from Ashley Edwards, our horticulture agent. She's currently at a program and regrets that she couldn't be here tonight. And I believe that Steve Podorf is going to try to get on the agenda to do an update soon. So thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions?
I guess not. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chloe.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Next is citizens' time. Thank you. All right, we'll start with Freddie Gwynn. That'd be fine, yes. And I will
Freddie
remind you
speak.
that we do give 3 minutes.
Yes,
okay?
sir. I'm
Yes, sir.
already down the hatch here. My name is Jim Best, and I hope Freddie will have a chance to share his feelings because they're very important. I've spent several decades of the last 50 years as a speech pathologist working around Hill's Store and many other sites, so I may know more about some of your families than you might recognize. Grandparents and nursing homes in Twin County. So I've just retired after 50 years. And during that time, I've been a scout leader and taken 16 years to teach I call them my boys, but I don't own them, but I had to be responsible for them. And we've done a lot of canoeing and tried to instill the beauty of Carroll County and what we should not take for granted. And so I'm here because I feel a burden, knowing what I have invested in to learn about the 2 solar projects that are scheduled in a county that doesn't have formal zoning, because that means that a foreign country can come in and buy as much land as they can afford, and we're talking about a foreign solar company that has more than $2 billion in resources that do not care, according to their business practice, for the local residents in 22 other sites in Virginia. And I also want to say part of this burden is because the measure of my faith is how we treat our neighbors. And I've learned to love my neighbors in Carroll County, Grayson County, Patrick County, Henry County, and I hate to see them sell out the resources that they have taken for granted, and this is grievous to me. And so I'm petitioning you guys to look again at the letters. I hope you received the slideshow slides that have a lot of information. Pulaski Board of Supervisors just denied Energix 5-0 because of their concern for Claytor Lake. I've canoed to Claytor Lake when I was at Wake Forest years ago. And we're protecting the New River and all the tributaries and all the neighbors that live upstream from it. Energix was denied in Carroll County, Dinwiddie. Public pressure forced Energix to withdraw in Franklin County and New Kent. And so we're asking for planning as adults and as fathers and grandfathers, the mothers and fathers of this county, to look ahead to a generation that will be faced with the recycling, the end of this story, which is 20 or 30 years down the road, with chemicals that are known in Europe and across this United States as toxic. Think ahead, gentlemen. Make the best better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Ayers? Okay.
Well, he said the word. The key of this business, this foreign country, is invisibility. And to say that they got caught off guard is not an accident. In fact, in some counties, for example, in Henry, they're actually paying neighbors in a black community not to protest. $2,500 for a nice scholarship. This is not the kind of business practice that I tried to share with my scouts, to be trustworthy. It's a matter of transparency. It's a matter of honesty. It's a matter of the kind of business people that you want to welcome to your county, who, by example, for example, the DEQ has already assessed more than $90,000 in violations to this company, and they're not done. When you put a business on the floodplain of a river and put cadmium telluride, which does not have a clear decomposition or recycling history, it's all new. And the SEIA has just tried to establish, that's the Solar Energy Industries Association, standards for companies that sell toxic, and 95% of the solar panels are not do not contain cadmium telluride. But the cheapest ones they could find, made in Arizona from First Solar, are the only kind that they use. And so that's why Claytor Lake decided we don't want those in our floodplain, because we don't know, and we're not going to bank on the reliability of a company that has consistently shirked their responsibility, their contracts to neighbors, to set up barriers and to grade and to control the erosion on steep slopes that we have in this county. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Ayers?
Hello, my name is Esther Ayers, and I'm from Cana. And Cana is located below the mountain, as we call it, but I call it the foundation of the mountain. And I live on the Bear Trail, and I can see, the property in North Carolina. And I'm concerned about the notes that we have there in Cana that is from an energy company. And why I am interested in it, I'm interested in a estate of my brother Buford Ayers that has land that joins this area. And also there are 2 branches that run through this property that feed water into the city of Mount Airy and Surrey County. And have they been informed? Don't they use water from our branches that makes the creeks? So I don't personally want this near our property because I have several acres that I can look across the road and see this land, but I cannot see where the energy will be built. So I'm interested in it not be, and if Carroll County has the ordinance and everything, can they take care of it and help us not to get it? Because everybody should read this note from Vina, Virginia, and it's from the Virginia Coalition of Human Rights. So please take interest and help us. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Rich? I can't read the last name. Mhm. No, it starts with, have you signed up to speak? We'll claim it you then.
All right. I'll jump the line then. Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Gene Bergoletta. And,
Oh, you was way on down.
is that the one you're trying to get?
No.
Well, anyhow, I'm here tonight with my wife Lori and my son Gene, who's also a resident of Carroll County. And we have several concerns about the proposed River Trail Solar Project. My wife and I live at 9193 Pepper Lane. Our property is basically a front row seat to the proposed site. We chose this area because of its natural beauty and the friendly people and the natural resources that we have here. The site consists of fairly steep pasture land that ultimately ends at the Crooked Creek and its floodplains. It seems that to us that were these hillsides shingled with these solar panels, that it would cause an inordinate amount of these cadmium telluride solar panels. It would cause a significant amount of runoff and erosion that would ultimately affect the health of the landscape and the ensuing inland waterways that it borders on. The site proposal consists of the installation of over 56,000 of these potentially toxic solar panels. That's a pretty astounding number that could potentially be damaged by strong winds, hail, tornadoes, or whatever, and it would in fact at that point directly expose the beautiful landscape to this cadmium telluride. They're contained when they're in panels, but if they get destroyed for some reason, we have a really big environmental problem. Another concern is the disposal of these panels when the potential site's decommissioned and the restoration of the site to its former condition, which is, who knows how long down the road, 25, 30 years, but it's going to be our children and grandchildren that are going to inherit this problem, this potential problem. We have questions. Who's responsible for the decommissioning? Will there be provisions for the decommissioning? Who will bear the financial burden of decommissioning or remediation of any damage to the land caused by the proposed site? Will it become a burden on Carroll County and its residents to potentially fix a problem that was created by Energix, a foreign-owned company with no allegiance to the people of this community or the people of Virginia? Foreign-owned company that has numerous violations statewide and in other parts of the world, which we should all be concerned about at this point. We believe that because these violations and their history, Energix's history, in other communities, and that because of the potential impact on our land of the installation of these cadmium telluride panels on the steep slope, pristine landscape, that Energix should be denied permits by Carroll County to develop this site. Carroll County and its residents should take a long, hard look at Energix.
I'll let you close it.
Okay, should take a long, hard look at Energix, and frankly, any company that comes to do business in our county. Impact on our health, safety, land, natural resources in our community, what their stance is on that. What do they represent? What have they done previously that we should be looking at, and be concerned with? Land use in any community is a major concern. I think we should all, we should slow down and take a time to understand exactly who's looking to benefit from our land, their ethics, and most importantly, how it'll impact us all on the local level. I thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And by the way, I invite anybody in the room to come take a look at our property and see what the before picture of what's at stake. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna give it another shot. Rick? All right, we're gonna do this by process of elimination. Janet?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Janet Blanding. I live in Fancy Gap. My husband and I have a ground-mounted solar energy system at our home, and we are very pleased with it. Most months, 10 months out of the year, it exceeds our energy needs, and we can sell some power back to Appalachian Power, which feels good. And it feels good knowing that our energy source, our electricity source, is non-polluting. It feels good. So when I heard about these solar farms, I was interested, and I wanted to learn more because I'm very pleased with our solar project. So I went to the PBR meeting held by Energix last Wednesday at the Galax Library, and I learned a few interesting things. I learned that they are leasing the land that the River Trail project will be built on. It's farmland, so there won't be a lot of vegetation destroyed. There will be no removal of the vegetation near the New River Trail because a lot of people want to make sure the beauty of that trail is preserved, and that's a priority for the company as well. The company has an ongoing contract with Solar First to make the panels, to repair them and maintain them if anything goes wrong, and in 35 years, when the project is decommissioned, Solar First will remove the panels and recycle them. The cadmium telluride that a lot of people are concerned about is dangerous when it's cadmium, but when it becomes cadmium telluride, it is not, it's 1/10 as toxic as it was. It's significantly less of a problem. There have been erosion problems at 2 of the 22 Energix sites in Virginia. However, there has been no toxic runoff with the cadmium telluride. That is just not a thing. You probably got an email from the Virginia Coalition for Human Rights. I know I did. I tried to click on the link in that email to the DEQ documents that talked about the problems at the 2 sites that had enforcement actions, and the link didn't work. So I called DEQ today, talked to a very nice man there who helped me find the enforcement actions, and they were simply about erosion and runoff, which are serious concerns that the company has to take care of, but it was not a toxic issue. Lastly, I want to say I got curious about the sender of this email, Virginia Coalition for Human Rights, so I looked them up. They are not an environmental group. They are an anti-Israel group. The company Energix is actually a Virginia company, but its parent company is an Israeli company. So I don't have time to look deeper into that. I'm turning orange already, but I think we should look carefully at who is telling the neighbors of these projects about their being dangerous. Is it about the environment? Is it about us in Carroll County? Or is it about their feelings about Israel? Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
just in a conversation with a friend recently, and they told me something I found very interesting. They said that politicians in Richmond don't think that the state of Virginia continues beyond Roanoke. When I look at this proposal for this, these solar panels, I kind of get a feeling that, yeah, rural America, we're being served up. I feel that rural America is the last frontier when it comes to exploiting the natural resources in our country. The toxic wastes, it's not a matter of if they're going to occur, it's when. Now, is it going to occur in our lifetime, in our children's, in our grandchildren's? We live in national treasures. Carroll County has the Blue Ridge Parkway on its corridor in the south. We have the New River that flows. The Blue Ridge Parkway is a national park. The New River, it's the second oldest river in the world. It's not just in this country, in the world. And we are suggesting to put these solar panels that are going to, they're going to leach. It's not a matter of if it will happen, it's when will it happen. She says that it's 10% less than others. Well, guess what? When you poison the water, guess who's going to drink it? Me and you. Did you watch Aaron Brockovich? One of these days, they were going to be in a situation where they're going to bring water from the New River for us to drink, and we're not going to want to. Our animals are going to be impacted by this. She says that, okay, that's, we want to preserve vegetation. We need to look at the soil, because if we are going to have animals that are drinking that we then go and eat, we don't want that. If we're going to, us drinking it ourselves is going to be an issue. So nevertheless, there's toxic waste that's going to happen, and we're going to be in trouble. We've got our national treasures. We don't want to ruin those. It doesn't just impact Carroll County. This is not the only place. You've heard that we've had other counties in Virginia that are rejecting this, and I don't even know what it is that really is going on. I just know that I don't want solar panels here in this area. I don't know if you all have any ability to stop what's already started. But if you do, I encourage you, don't sell out rural America. Tell Richmond, we're not going to be their toxic wasteland. Let us keep our national treasures pristine. Let us keep the air quality. Let us keep the water quality, the soil quality. Let's maintain that. Let's not let those people sell us out and it just become about money. Let's look at the future for the legacy that we're going to leave. So I thank you for the time this evening.
Thank you. Ann?
Good evening. I'm Ann Childress, and I'm a fairly recent inhabitant of Carroll County. I've only been here for 10 years, but my husband's family's been here for a long time. I retired from the National Park Service after 35 years and was really lucky to have that as a career. The Park Service is in the perpetuity business, and spent my career with everything we did, hoping to preserve all the wonderful things that national parks bring to us, not just for our grandchildren, but for our grandchildren's grandchildren. And so I try to look at life that way. What kind of impact am I having in the world? I know that as a nation and as a world, we've got to address power issues, whether we go with solar or wind, but eventually our fossil fuels are going to run out, not in our lifetimes, but maybe in our grandchildren's lifetime. So it's important to look to the future and to look to new technologies. But in doing so, we need to look very carefully at those technologies. It's one thing to have, it's great to have solar panels at your home, I think. Some of my relatives do, and they're very happy with them, as is the family that spoke a minute ago. But I tend to think, well, what's the difference between having 3 cows in your pasture or 20 chickens in your pasture and having a chicken farm, 20 chicken farms, huge turkey farms, and all the kinds of issues that come with those in terms of managing large-scale production of food. I don't know if the same kinds of things apply with large-scale production of energy in terms of solar systems, but I think it's something we need to find out more about. And I would encourage all of you to consider very carefully the future and to go slowly. It's great to think that you're on the vanguard of something new, and that can be exciting, and somebody has to lead the way somewhere. But I would encourage us to take a second look and a third look and to move carefully and thoughtfully and with a lot of education as to what we're getting into and what our choices are. Carroll County is an amazingly wonderful place. People come to visit us. We lived all over the Southeast working for the Park Service, and a lot of folks come to visit us, and they're always just blown away by the natural beauty of Carroll County and by the New River and just everything that's in the county. It's a gorgeous, lovely place, and I think we all want it to be that way for our grandchildren's grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
I'm here also to talk about the Blue Orchard solar panel farm that's going down in Cana on off of Bear Trail on Flint Hill Road. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. Flint Hill Road is a gravel road about 3 miles long with some bad turns in it and a 1-lane bridge. So all the traffic to the solar panel will be coming off of Bear Trail. Bear Trail is a 1-lane road on a good day. There's a spot at the bottom of it where 2 creeks converge, and this area is washed out about 4 times in the last 12 years since I've lived there. I think there's culverts on that road that are rusty. When you get down in the ditch and look up at them, they're separated and they're broken. There's a lot of work that would have to be done before you start running trucks and things like this, equipment in there to do this job. I'd like to know who would pay for that and who would be monitoring that. I would like to think if they do go ahead with it, there'll be a soil and erosion control person from the county that's looking after our interest so that the citizens will be protected from it. I live on Caution Tape Road. I've been there for 40 years. That cuts right through the middle of this. That is definitely a 1-lane road. I would like reassurances when this company's all done doing what they're doing that that road is back in place, graded, ditched, and gravelled like it is now when they started. But I'm more concerned with the erosion. I'm more concerned with the hazardous chemicals that may be in these panels running into those 2 creeks, which eventually lead into Lovell's Creek. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, is there anybody else that didn't sign up that wants opportunity to speak? Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
I so move.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the vote with Mr. Early. Yes. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any discussion?
I'd like to ask Mr. Durbin
All right,
a question, please.
I'll grant you the floor.
The consent calendar does have some sheriff's office vehicles in it that we're approving.
I'm sorry,
Gentlemen,
I can't hear the question.
The consent calendar does have we're approving some sheriff's office vehicles, correct? Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe
So anyway, yeah, I think it's one for the transmission and then one
Yes.
it's going to buy used. Okay. My son just recently took a job at the sheriff's office. He doesn't live with me, my oldest son. Dispatch him. I just wanted to clarify that to make sure before I vote on it.
Okay. So if I
Get your
understand
opinion on
correctly, the funding would be for vehicles and some equipment for the sheriff's office.
Correct.
Your son is employed by the sheriff's office.
Correct. Well, he starts
Or
this week.
will be, okay. Your son, though, is not, does not live under your roof, correct? You do not claim him on his taxes?
No.
Or on your taxes, and you do not provide him support?
No.
Okay. Sort of counterintuitively, your son does not qualify as a family member for purposes of the Conflict of Interest Act.
Okay.
That's limited to really only two situations: a spouse and someone who lives under your roof, who is a dependent. So if they don't meet those two tests, it's not technically a conflict under the Conflict of Interest Act.
Okay.
So I think you can proceed to vote.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement I need to read into that issue. As many of you are aware, I serve as an unpaid volunteer position in Carroll County Sheriff's Office because I receive no compensation from the Sheriff's Office. Virginia state and local government conflict of interest does not apply. I want to assure the public that I can participate in consideration of this matter fairly, objectively, and in the public interest.
Okay. On that, Mr. Durbin, where it's a volunteer,
Well, again, in addition to the volunteer status, I think that this funding affects more than 3 individuals who are employed or associated with the sheriff's office. So again, the group of 3 exception would also be available. So there's no financial interest, but there's also the group of 3 exception that would be available. So I don't see that as a conflict of interest.
Okay. All right, are there any further discussion? I'll start the voting with Mr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, next, payment of invoices. We can either do them separate as presented, or we can do them A, B, and C, whichever the board so desires.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve A, B, and C of the payment of invoices.
All right, have a motion to approve them A, B, and C at one time. I have a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll start the vote with Mr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next, under new business, the budget calendar. I entertain a motion to approve the budget calendar as presented.
I so move.
All right, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the vote with Mr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next, which is done annually, the Mount Rogers performance contract. I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the Mount Rogers performance contract.
All right, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the voting with Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next, third quarter appropriation. I'll entertain a motion to approve this as presented.
Make a motion we approve as presented.
All right, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the vote. Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next, to approve, which is an extension of the current MOU for the Peppers Ferry Regional Wastewater. I'll entertain a motion to approve that. It's the current one, we're just going to extend it.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
All right, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, are there any discussion?
I have some. Mike and I have traded emails today about this, and actually, I am amazed that the Hillsville plant will not accept septic sewage.
That is correct. One of the reasons why is when they pump these out, you don't know everything that's in them. Plus, I think it's just a large volume of just stuff, and it makes it harder to process. A lot of places will charge. I can remember a place that I was affiliated with once. We charged, I want to say $200 a ton to take it off. So you can imagine how expensive it can get. And what the issue is a year ago, I had a septic hauling company that was wanting to take it, and they were taking it a longer distance, and you know, my thoughts were if we can allow them to take it to a closer distance or something, you could pass some savings on to our people. So last year, we accepted the MOU, and in order for Pepper Ferry Regional Water Treatment Authority to accept it in Radford, then because it's coming outside of our county and going into theirs, they need something saying that we're allowing it. So they're I guess, hauling all the way to Radford from here, and which
Well,
amazes me too. I would think that there would be an economic value for here.
I can understand the reason for the MOU. You know, when someone flushes a commode, they don't care if it's going in a pipe to the treatment facility or going in a septic tank. And it's the same stuff either way. Has somebody approached the town? They need additional sewage. They're way under capacity right now. Seems to me like it'd make logical sense for them to take that.
I reached out last year to both them and Galax and asked them if they accept sewage from septic tanks. And it's
They may need more flow before they'd be in a position to accept septage. I think Peppers Ferry may have sufficient flow that it's not as much of an issue.
Yeah.
I know that there are sometimes it can be an issue to just get a slug of septage in one of those anaerobic digesters, but it's not, if you've got sufficient flow and other things, then I don't think it helps or hurts the system. But I'm just speculating as far as the Hillsville situation, but that may be an issue.
No, well, North Carolina will spread it on their fields.
I've seen that
Maybe
happen.
we should do that here since we don't have any land use.
I think DEQ's kind of put a halt on that,
Okay. That's all.
or made it onerous to do.
Are there any further discussion? I'll start the vote with Mr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Dixon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next on the agenda to set the January meeting date and time. I know from the Public Service Authority meeting, would the board consider January 9th, 2023? Could I have a motion for that at 5 o'clock organizational and closed?
I so move.
All right. And then the regular meeting for the public would be at 6 o'clock.
Make that
All right.
motion.
And I have a motion for January 9th, 2023, 5 o'clock being the organizational and closed, and then 6 o'clock being the board meeting for the public. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the vote with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next, committee appointments. Are there any committee appointments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we place Gerald Goad on the Mount Rogers CSP.
All right. Have a motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the voting with Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Are there any other committee appointments that the board would like to make a motion on tonight or table for the next meeting?
I'll make a motion. We table the rest of the next meeting.
Mhm.
Don't you need it?
Yeah, we can table them. Would like to, and I'll ask for council's advice on this. Mr. Hill is currently our Berceda primary vote. Mr. Early is our alternate, and I'd like to maybe for the board to entertain a motion to switch them to make Mr. Early the voting member.
I think thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that you could request a motion to switch the designation to designate basically to
Mr. Early be the primary, Mr. Hill being the alternate.
Thank you.
Correct?
Yeah, to name Mr. Hill as the alternate and Mr. Early as the primary. I'd have to double check the Berceda's bylaws to confirm that there is not any additional steps you need to take. But you could take that up tonight, I think, with the understanding that if there's something else that I see once I review the bylaws, there may be an additional step you have to take.
We could just do that back in January, correct?
You could.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion that we make Mr. Early the primary member of the Berceda Board and Mr. Hill the alternate.
Okay.
And I'll put in there that as long as there's no issues with the Berceda bylaws.
Okay. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Are there any discussion?
I'd like to say that I've served on there many years, and I think Robbie was before me. And I moved up after him, and it's logical that Jody would move up. I won't be another year before I'm off the Board of Supervisors, so I think that's an appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Thank you for your service there, Mr. Hill. And I'm sure you can still go as an alternate.
Yep. And I will.
All right. I'll start the voting with Mr. Early,
I'll abstain.
Mr. Collins, Mr. Hill,
Abstain.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Are there any other committee appointments that the board would like to take action on or entertain a motion to table them till next month?
Make a motion, we table till next meeting.
Okay. Have a motion to table the other committee appointments till the January 9th meeting.
Second.
All right. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll start the vote with Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Collins, and I vote yes. Next on the agenda is EMS building discussion. Mr. Watson, I'll open the floor to you.
Thank you. One of the items that I guess I've been looking at and the board has been discussing over the past year plus is the condition of our current EMS building. The current building is located in a metal building that's been used for many different, everything from a skating ring to a EMS building to storage for the PSA. Moving forward, we have set some money aside and through different funds, through the ARPA redistributed funds, and it's getting to the point where we need to move forward. We have an existing building that has quite a bit of issues. To be honest with you, I feel like, and I'm sure the board feels like that the current building doesn't meet up a standard that fits us, that it really should be what we represent. So moving forward, I'd like to start the process of sending out a request for proposals for an architect engineering firm to look at evaluating the existing property and do some cost estimates along with starting the communication with staff in order to design and build an EMS station. Okay, what this would entail is we would advertise out for a request for proposals and interview, go through that process. Once an engineering firm is picked, then we would work with the existing staff that we had, possibly a board member, and see what the needs are. And also look for a location. We have an idea of the area in which we want to be. We can go ahead and start this process with the anticipation of purchasing property in the near future. Is there any questions?
Do you need a motion to go ahead and move forward with the architect? Or?
I would like to have a motion to go ahead and start the process of selecting a firm.
I have a question before a motion. Initially, it sounded like you were talking about the current property. You're not talking about the current property.
Well, there was this discussion at one time about evaluating the current building and remodeling it. It's a rough building, okay? It would take cutting the bottom part of the metal off, doing some type of other facing.
Okay, this is a new location and a new building you're talking about.
We can do it either way. If the board,
I want
has-
the motion to be specific.
okay, I guess the question would be to the board if we want to evaluate the existing building. Do we want to look at the existing building, let's get a estimate on what it's going to cost to remodel or build a new building in a separate location? I guess that's the question I propose to the board.
I'll open floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we put out an RFP for the design and construction of a new EMS building on a different location, yet to be determined.
All right, I have a motion.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Are there any discussion?
I would look at, if we did that, we might want to do something else with the other building, which may take some reconfiguring. So I would just look at, maybe we add them as a two-prong thing.
Repurposing the old building?
Repurposing?
I'm fine with that, repurposing it for some other purpose besides EMS.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll include that in a motion, but the RFP is not going to address that.
Yes.
Right. Okay, are there any further discussion? All right.
Okay, just a question. Can you get an accurate RFP if you don't know the property that you're gonna put it on?
You would have some additional costs with grading. We would probably have to do some type of valuation of the site as a second part of it once it's done, but we could build it in the RFP to have the location as far as site drainage. I mean, you might have to restructure the building because of it. You know, the reason why that I guess I'm wanting to go ahead and start the process, it's going to take us, by the time you sit down at the RFP, you interview, you're 60, 90 days before you can pick a firm at least. And then you're going to want to evaluate, what do you want in it? Do you want 2 bathrooms, 3 bathrooms? Do you want to tailor an existing facility that we have? We have built, well, in the county, there's been a couple built within the last 10, 15 years. Do we want to go with a similar design? Do we want to include other things in it to get within our price range? So there'll be some design at the beginning to talk about. You know, and it might take us, we might have to weigh the difference between the grading and the cost of the property. You know, that's going to be something too, based on the footprint of the building. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman? If
Yes.
I could just, wanted to clarify a point. Are we seeking design build services here, or are we just seeking a professional, like an architect or engineering firm to evaluate and design if you move forward?
I was understanding architect to design and move forward.
Okay.
Okay, what we would do, I'm sorry if they're interrupting, but what I would want to do is put in the contract, the architect and engineering has the opportunity to move forward with the design and construction, but it's not guaranteed. So if you get through the architect and design, the PER to do the initial design, because you'll go through initial design, you'll go through your elevation drawings, you'll have a look at it before, and the structure of it before you'll ever go to bid documents.
Or all that can be handled before you ever do civil drawings or have any civil work done on it.
Yeah.
So for that reason, it won't change the RFP to not necessarily know the site, because you're going to be awarding the contract based on professional qualifications and best fit for this, for the county's needs. So.
Does Mr. Early need to change his motion at any point or add anything, or is it good?
I don't think we need to muddy the water with future use of the existing building. I mean, this is just a motion for the RFP to proceed with the engineering and design,
Yeah.
right?
That's what's before the board right now for action, and I don't know that it needs to be amended. I think you can, if you want to go in different directions, you can do that in the actual contracting process.
Okay.
Are there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll start the voting with Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next, twice a year tax collection discussion. And I know this is for Mike, but I would also like to add Justin, being that he's our finance director, in on this conversation as well.
Okay, I'll do a little bit of generalized discussion, and if there's any questions on actual numbers, I'll use rough estimates, okay? Over the past, I'm gonna guess, 7, 8 years, there has been a change in fund balances over the years. So it started out where we had a good fund balance 10 years ago, and then over that time period, some of it's been used a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, in order to balance budget at the end of the year. It got to the point 2 or 3 years, well, about 3 years ago, that we were looking at revenue anticipation loans, meaning about October, September, October, somewhere in that, somewhere within that area, you would have to go borrow money. Okay, so in order to borrow the money to pay your bills, and then you charge interest and closing costs, you know, and it's not a huge amount, you know, I'm gonna guess $20,000-$30,000 of funds in order to just borrow the money for 3 or 4 months. Okay, and then you start collecting taxes, you get back up there, and during that time period, you also have to control how you're spending money. Like during that time period, you might not have paid certain vendors or certain donations or certain things at certain times because you wouldn't have the funds in order to do it. We also have 3 organizations that I consider working out of our checking account. Okay, we have DSS, we have the school board, and we have us. So those are 3 different entities that write checks at 3 different times. So the decision was made to go to twice-year taxation. Okay, so we collect our real estate taxes twice a year. However, on the reason why that you had this one-time input of money, so it's $6.5, $7 million that you receive as a one-time bump. Okay, that one-time bump allows you to put that in the bank, and that gets you away from revenue anticipation bonds. During that time period, that 1 year you paid it in June, which the dates were different because we extended the times or back to back. So paid it June, December, and then the following year you started collecting June's. So you collected one time extra out of that time period, which was already done. So from that point forward, you'd only collect it twice. So from this point forward, everybody continues to pay twice a year. So my taxes this year, if they were $3,000, then there'll be $3,000 next year or whatever based on the rates. You pay the same amount. You'll pay $1,500 in the spring, in the summer, and you'll pay in the fall. Okay. And a lot of municipalities have been going to that because it allows you to get that one-time input. So once we got that one-time inflow of that money, there was a set of financial policies set in place so that we would never get to the point where we should never get to the point of ever having to do revenue anticipation bonds. It limits us, I'm going to say, without changing the policy or going through some extra steps, to ever get below the point of where we're not financially stable. Okay? But that also gives us the point of where we're financially stable. We can take some of that money, stick it into a local government investment pool, and then yield interest off of it, which right now I guess you're 3-4% interest rate on a guaranteed amount that you can put in it. So what that does is, if you were to go back, you wouldn't be able to put that in there. Okay? The money that we have that has just now been put into savings will generate $130,000 a year, half a cent worth of real estate tax, and out of all the money we have. Now, and we have a report here broke down. It shows what I've got it here somewhere. shows exactly what revenues we have or what funds we have in our accounts and where they go, okay? This is where Justin comes in play. If you were to go to once-a-year taxation, what you would end up doing is not collecting taxes at the June time, and you would collect a half a year in that December. And then after that year of returning those funds, you would go back to same amount of payment every year on December. Instead of paying $1,500 in the spring and $1,500 on the fall, you'd pay $3,000 at the fall. You know, and personally, I like twice a year. If you don't have it in an escrow, which I had mine in escrow, but I don't have it in an escrow, then I'm able to pay half of it in the summer, and when December rolls around for Christmas, you're not paying the whole other amount. So, and that's one of the biggest gripes with taxes is you collect it December the 5th of every year. This spreads that out during that time. Again, if you did that, you would return $7 million back to the public, and you would end up, it even costs you more because right now we have the funds to actually operate a CIP. We have the opportunity to look at building an E&S building because we have the ARPA money, redistributed money into it. Our capital improvement is where this would come from. So in order to meet our policy, our debt policies, and all the policies we have, and I don't know, I've got it right here. No. In order to meet our debt policy, we would have to pull 1.7, about 1.7, out of our CIP and do away with those projects.
So what I've passed out here shows what it was in the first page, fiscal year 21, fiscal year 22, and then I did 22 as if we had switched back to once-year tax collection. So I pulled out that $7 million, which is an approximation. And down at the bottom is kind of a check figure. This breaks down our funds that we have into the different categories. Some of them we can't spend; they're restricted by external sources. And then down at the bottom, we have our fund balance policy for fiscal stability, revenue stabilization, and then capital reserves, and then unassigned, which would be anything above that policy. So those two columns show you the difference between if we gave that back, we wouldn't be able to meet our policy without pulling from that CIP or changing those policies to be able to do that. One thing to keep in mind is the fiscal stability, those policies are set based on the budget. So as the budget changes from year to year, that policy will change too. So over the past years, with the change that we've had, the past year with the increases in the constitutional office funding, sheriff's office, those things, that increases the budget. So that does increase the reserves from year to year that we would need. And then on the second page, I put together just a few charts. The first one is our fund balance over time. Like Mike said before, you see in 2012 we started up with a pretty good solid number, and just ate over that over those years. And so between that 16 and 2019 timeframe, that's when we were doing revenue anticipation notes. We increased it through going to the twice-year tax collections. That's what that half bump does, is increase that fund balance up, and then starting to level off there. And then projected what it would do if we switch back to once a year.
This is exactly.
The second one is kind of a cash flow over a year, with the orange being what it would be now. With doing twice-year tax collections, it really helps during that October timeframe. And the yellow would be if we were once a year, where when we get down to that September, October, November, it starts to get very low. And the third page, I did a cost of revenue anticipation note. What Mr. Watson said before, the fees aren't huge with it. Before in 2018, We borrowed approximately $1 million. The fees were around 10,000. But one thing that we weren't able to do then because we didn't have the funds is we did not have any money put back in that LGIP, so we weren't generating revenue. So I'm looking at that as an opportunity cost. So that's money we weren't able to offset tax rates or funding through that matter. As budgets increase, I just projected it. If we did get back in that situation, the amount would be higher, so I put it at $2 million, and just projecting out what those costs could be.
And just to give you an idea, the extra funds that, I won't call them extra funds, but the funds that we have received and done our due diligence with gives us the opportunity to do future projects. And I've jotted down just a few. We're looking at a radio system for emergency services. You're looking on, 6 million plus. You're looking at an EMS building, which I think is a desperate need. It's not just a need, it's a desperate need. You got about 1.3 in it. Then we're going to spend $2 million on broadband. So we're looking at the next several years, the next 3 or 4 years, spending approximately $10 million out of our CIP, our ARPA, and our total fund balance to not increase debt within Carroll County. We're holding back on issuing debt. If we went to once-a-year tax collection and returned these funds, we would have to debt service those, meaning I could almost guarantee you it'd cost you 2.5 cents on your taxes in the future, just because you're going to lose this revenue from the taxes, from the money we're investing, and then you're also going to have to do some debt service in order to pay for things. So, our recommendation is to continue on as we have. I think the benefit to doing it is outweighs the little bit of the need to go back. And that's just my recommendation.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Justin.
Was there any more questions, or?
Board have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, did we invite the treasurer to come and speak?
We did not formally invite her.
That was one of the things that I had requested in the last meeting, was to hear from her too, just to hear what she thought about it.
Yeah, but I don't think there was a motion for that, Mr. Collins, but we can ask her,
Yeah, before we made a decision, I'd like to hear what she had to say about it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to save this for citizens' time, but I was on this board 20 years ago, and we were trying to get twice-a-year tax collection just for the reasons that Mike and Justin had mentioned. Finally, it got approved. Carroll County, with tax collection and land use, are one of the very few counties in the state that we're still doing once-a-year tax collection. And we're still one of the very few counties that don't use land use. I am not in favor of going backwards 20 years. I'll make a motion that we have no further discussion concerning this issue.
Well, I was on here, me and Robbie was on this board when we had to borrow money for 3 straight years. I don't want to go back that again because that set us behind 10 years at least on our capital improvement plan. We've not been able to fund anything, barely a few vehicles that we purchased. So I don't think we need to go back to that again. We've finally got our financials in order, and I don't want to mess with it.
I'll second.
Mr. Durbin, hang on. Mr. Durbin, could I, if twice-a-year tax collection is what is in place, there would have to be a motion to change that. There don't need to be motions to keep it in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm not making a motion to keep it in place. I'm making a motion to not have any further discussion about it. And I don't think it was worthwhile to invite the treasurer here. She is busy enough already, and she's not going to add anything that we haven't already heard.
I think that the effect of a motion, if it passed, any board member could bring it up again, and there would have to be another vote on whether to discuss it at that time. So it would just be I would interpret such a motion, if it passed, to be just a sense of the board and nothing that could be binding.
And also, we've had 2 public hearings on this.
I am sorry you all had to spend as much time as you did going over what you just did, because there is no stomach on this board to go back to once a year, well, maybe very little stomach on this board to go back to once a year tax collection.
All right. What's the census of the board? Do you want to?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right. All right. You withdraw your second?
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. All right. Next, old business. Anything under old business?
No.
Okay. Board member comments. I've said it all year. As the chair, I was always the last one to get a go. But I'm going to switch it around. I'm going to go first tonight. Because I'm always ditto what everybody else says. So. But I don't have a lot. I will start with thanking all the employees for all their efforts this year. Staff, Mike, Justin, Crystal, Jason here all the time. Mr. Newman's here with us every board meeting. If we have any questions dealing with the land use or planning commission, appreciate their time. All of our employees, our staff, our EMS, police department, sheriff's office, all the volunteers that help in the community. We've lost a lot of great volunteers and a lot of good people in our community, and I ask that everybody remember them through the holidays, their families and stuff. It'll be tough, for them. So lift them up in prayer and think about them. Miss Mavis, she was a very special lady. She was a good supporter. She let me know when I didn't do right, but that's all right. That's what you want from the people that's out there, the citizens. Keep you in check and help you remember why you're there and why you serve the citizens of this county. So, I want to thank all the citizens that come and speak during Citizens Time that are passionate about our community. Yeah, Carroll County is a beautiful place, and I'm very thankful for this board. I'm honored that y'all let me be y'all's chair this year, and I feel like we had a good 2022. And I want to thank Mr. Early and Mr. Collins and Mr. Dixon, this first year on the board, coming in and taking the bull by the horns and working on several different boards and volunteering your time and continuing moving Carroll County forward. And thank y'all for that, and wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and look forward to 2023. I think we're going to have a splash pad next year. By March, maybe? Rumor has it.
Rumor has
It's a
it.
little cold.
Rumor has it. Rumor has it.
Who's going first?
So, with that being said, Mr. Early?
Seems like I'm always first.
You second tonight.
Huh?
You second.
Well, no. Okay. Well, I'm going to start out with something negative.
Okay.
And it's events of last week. The Biden administration bringing home a prisoner over in Russia. They had an option. Some people will dispute what I'm about to say, but they had an option to bring back a Marine or a WNBA basketball player. And they chose the latter. And I'm appalled by that action. They brought home a person who won't even stand for the national anthem, and they should have left her there to rot. All right, now on to something a little more positive, I hope. I mentioned this to Mike about Twin County Airport, the method in which we make payments to them. I'd like Justin to look at how we're doing that now and try to do it in conformance with the way the other localities are doing it. I can't remember if it's quarterly or once a year, but whatever everybody else is doing, it makes it easier for their accounting, if you wouldn't mind changing that if necessary. I've already beat the drum about twice a year tax collection. I am very much in favor of twice a year and opposed to going backwards to once a year. And again, I mentioned that zoning and tax collection, we were the outliers in the state of Virginia as far as how we handle those things. We have no zoning. We don't have that tool in our toolbox. And once again, here pops up an issue that if we had zoning, we might be able to do something about it if we had the stomach to do anything or wanted to do it. Land use is an important thing for protecting the beauty of Carroll County. I've said it a number of times over and over. And 20 years ago when I was on this board, I was also a strong proponent then of having land use. And it hasn't happened. I think we need to do it. I know Mr. Durbin's working on that. And I hope that we can do something so that maybe one of these days we'll have a way to stop things that are going to be detrimental to our county. I'd like to thank Mr. Hill for his mentorship with the Bracita Board. He was always there. He was a great mentor to me, and I appreciate that, Rex. Thank you very much for doing that, and I look forward to replacing you as a primary on that board. And finally, I'd like to thank Chairman Moore. He's been an inspiration the entire year. He's had strong leadership, incredible dedication to the job, has just done a superb job, and I want to thank him for doing that. And it was a pleasure to serve as your vice. Thank you very much. And finally, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Mr. Collins?
Yeah, just like to thank the staff for all the work that you do, that you put into giving us the reports so that we can understand things and read them well. When it comes to twice-a-year taxes and that discussion, I would still like to hear from the treasurer. I may be the only one, but in the Fancy Gap District, I've had a lot of citizens who've reached out to me and said we'd like to go back to once a year, and I think their opinion is valuable. I think how they feel about it is worth our time to discuss it. So I will stand up. That's why I came here, was to represent the citizens, so that's what I'm doing. Just hope everybody has a great Christmas. Looking forward to next year and seeing what can be done to better our community even more.
Mr. Hill?
Just want to be like everybody else, thank our employees and volunteers, everybody that came tonight. I would like to mention to those folks that they always get gone before we get to tell them this, but they could come before the Planning Commission and talk about the solar farms as well, because that right now, that's where that piece of information or legislation, whatever you want to call it, or planning, is at this point in time. So if people needs to address that again, they're welcome to come to the Planning Commission Thursday night. Correct, Ronald? But you probably already told them that. I'm sure some of them talking to you. And after that, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Mr. McCarroll?
I don't want to beat a dead horse with this twice-a-year tax, but I want to reiterate what Rex said. Me and Rex come on at the same time on this board in 2016. And 16 and 17, I guess you could call were true learning experiences for us. And 18 and 19 is when we really started pushing and learning about this twice-a-year tax collection. I wasn't for it, and I had a lot of people come to me and tell me they wasn't for it. But we were borrowing money to survive as a county, and it wasn't the right thing to be doing. We were not being good stewards with the taxpayers' dollar. And that's when we switched over to twice-a-year tax collection. I know a lot of that rode on the backbone of the employees of this county, which was, at the time, it seemed like that's a thing that had to be done, and it was a mistake at that time. And now we're being able to make some ways forward to correct those mistakes. And the twice-a-year tax collection has been one of the most beneficial things this county has done. And it helps our cash flow as much as anything else. And I greatly appreciate Justin and Mike's effort and time into going through this and presenting these documents to show us the difference. If you look at the bottom line, if we were at once-a-year tax collection, we would be at a $7 million shortfall right now. I mean, a $7 million switch from where it's at. So I really greatly appreciate what y'all are doing, and I appreciate every member of this board and what they're doing to support this county, and it's working well right now, and I hope it continues that way. Thank all the staff for everything they're doing. Ronald, thank you for always being Mr. Positive back there in the corner, and I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes, I would like to make a motion, before I say anything else. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the nonprofit grant applications as requested by the Budget Committee. Justin sent out an email.
Okay.
I can go over them if I need to, but everybody should have had the email.
Yeah, I got it. All right. Have a motion to approve the grant applications.
I'll second that motion, Mr.
As
Chairman.
Justin submitted. All right, have a motion and a second. Are there any discussion?
Joey, just so that everybody understands, everybody that applied was given something, correct? As
No.
far as the,
No.
not all the,
No.
okay.
All of the community centers were.
He's got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it on email.
I've got it, it was
I
in the
think
board
I've
packet.
seen it, the word they give it to the community centers. I just thought maybe they separated it out somehow, was giving the rest of them something.
Are there any further discussion? All right, have a motion and a second to accept it as presented. I'll start the voting with Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. I'll grant you the floor back, Mr. Dixon.
Okay. Well, this is our first year on the board. I'd like to thank all the fellow supervisors. Tracy, you've done a great job as chairman, been a good leader. All the board members, you've been great to work with. County staff, and you put in a lot of hard work. Jason's still with us back here in the back. You got Justin and Mike, and Crystal always here, Ronald. Really put in a lot of work, long nights, just unnoticed, and we appreciate it. I feel we made some good improvements to the county. We still got a lot left to do, but we're getting there. We'd like to thank our veterans for giving us the freedom to do what we do. Our Sheriff's Department, Carroll Fire and Rescue, all our volunteer agencies, Piper's Gap, Laurel, Hillsville, Laurel Fork. Every year we lose at least one pillar of the community, like Tracy was talking about. But, I can't remember losing so many in such a short time, men and women that loved and helped those in our community. Big shoes to fill. Lacey Bowman, Joe McGrady, Bill Copeland, Jay Williams, Mava Vass, and of course he did a lot of Gaylats. We lived in Carroll. At the end was Claude Burnett. So a lot of great people that's gone, that done a lot for our community. Just remember their families in prayers this holiday season. They're going to be missed for a long time. And lastly, just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. That's all I got.
All right, County Administrator comments?
Okay, one of the only items I have is I set out a preliminary housing study. We'll be looking at doing a public information session. One of the things that we can do, we can have it prior to our one of our board meetings in February, or our board meeting in February, or if we'd like to do it on an additional day. Is there a preference from the board, or would we just like to communicate and find a good day to do it?
With the holidays and stuff, I just communicate through email.
Okay.
I'll find out a time that works for everybody. That work?
Absolutely. And other than that, I just want to say thank you to everybody and hope they have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. And thank you for all that y'all have done for us and the county and the employees. And as I've said before, I've got a great board. So thank you very much.
Turner? You got anything, Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing but to wish you all a blessed and happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year. Thank you.
All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
All right, I have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Start the vote with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Early, Mr. Collins, Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
and I vote yes.